Hello and welcome to a presentation on street vendor justice. Today we'll be exploring 3 key concepts that connect to this topic while also highlighting local community experiences that bring these issues to life. We'll also be sharing a brief interview with Elisar, who offers insight into what a typical day as a street vendor looks like and the challenges he faces. Finally, we'll wrap up by discussing practical ways you as the viewer can support street vendors in your own community. To begin, here's Yesenia with an overview of the 3 critical concepts. The first critical concept that we will be discussing is feminism. Street vendor justice is inherently tied to feminism through women's experiences. For example, older Mexican women florists who sell in the streets for economic sustenance. Women often look in the informal economy due to structural barriers like immigration status, language, and the incapacity to access formal work. They are criminalized for their work, harassed, fined, and erased from mainstream discourses of work and gender equality. Feminism, and more specifically Chicana feminism, recognizes that these women are not victims, but rather agents of survival and resistance who are formidable. It is not merely work to sell flowers, but to stake a claim to space, dignity, and autonomy in a society that does not include them. Defending street vendor justice is to validate these women's work as legitimate, important, and feminist. The second critical concept is citizenship/deportations. Street vendor justice is deeply connected with citizenship and deportation concerns, as it highlights how policing and laws serve to discipline and exclude racialized populations, particularly undocumented immigrants and individuals of color. Street vending, in most cases one of few available forms of work for immigrants, is most likely criminalized and its vendors arrested, fined, and even deported if municipal police collaborate with immigrant authorities. This criminalization is one of broader surveillance and racial profiling trends aimed at immigrant communities and rendering them ineligible for full engagement in civil life. Street vendors, who are often many times undocumented, may not be able to access formal legal protections or be denied the rights and recognition granted through formal citizenship. Nonetheless, by their daily labor and acts of resistance, organizing around vending rights, police harassment protections, and occupying public spaces, they claim their place and refuse a system that bases legitimacy in whiteness, wealth, and legal status. Thus, the struggle for justice for street vendors is not just one of economic survival, but a struggle for dignity, belonging, and the right to exist without the threat of deportation. The third and final critical concept is immigration. Street vendor justice is also closely tied to immigration because most street vendors are immigrants, typically undocumented, who turn to vending as one of the only easily accessible methods of survival given legal, linguistic, and economic barriers. Due to their immigration status, these traders typically do not enjoy legal employment opportunities and are driven into the illegal economy, where they face higher risks of criminalization, harassment, and exploitation. Domestic laws prohibiting street vending discriminatorily impact immigrant communities, and enforce leads to fines, arrest, and even deportation. In addition, anti-immigrant biases are also ingrained in policing and regulating public space, as immigrant vendors are framed as dangers or pests, not as economic and cultural contributors. Acting in response, street vendor justice movements fight not only economic and racial justice, but immigrant justice as well, and demand policies that protect vendors from criminalization and acknowledge their work to and remain in the streets without fear. Street vendor justice and immigration justice are thus essentially linked struggles for dignity, visibility, and the right to survive.
My name's Giselle, and after researching and gathering some community connections involved with street vendor justice, I was able to get important information through Jag Arreola. Now, questioning who is Jag Arreola, he is a Fontana-born hip-hop artist, activist, and former educator who is famously known for having a powerful voice to support individuals who are frequently ignored or unjustly treated. In December of 2023, Jag Arreola was one of the 8 activists collectively known as the Justice 8 who were arrested during rallies in Southern California calling for the protection and rights of street vendors. Jag Arreola himself gave us an insight of his own witnessing done in October just a few years ago. He says the Fontana City Council approved of spending $600,000 to bring in a third-party vendor to help with the banning of street vending in Fontana, then forcefully providing code enforcement services such as impounding equipment and food from vendors, calling in police support, as well as undergoing a 6-month contract of having 6 security workers patrolling the city during 8-hour shifts, 6 days out of the week, just to make sure no street vending was occurring, and if so, it would result in automatic arrest of our vendors. Because of all of this unfair and unjust treatment towards our people, it's what led a powerful man like Jag Ariola to stand up and protest to fight for what's right, to support our local street vendors, but resulted in wrongful jail time even for the Justice 8. So making my point clear on how is this fair? We punish the innocent and kick them off the streets for wanting to be successful and make some income by simply selling food, and then still wrongfully punish those who want to have a voice to help out and support just for the government to get their fair share of seeing us unsuccessful? So I say a battle is a battle and a fight is a fight regardless. But understanding now the voices we have in our community today, we can only make more of an impact if we join to fight for what we know is right. Remembering Jag Ariola and the Justice 8 for their love and pushing what we know we can make possible to help make our impact.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jasmine, and I conducted the interview with my stepdad. He is a street vendor. He is an olotero. He has been doing this for about 10 years. He does go out daily, except for when the weather is very rough, as heavy rains or extreme heatness. He is such a jokester. Every time we take pictures or try to take a picture, he makes funny faces, jokes around with his clients and his friends all the time. He does have 4 kids that are in Mexico that he tries to provide with for them with the money that he makes from street vending. He does love his job as he likes seeing all these kids grow up around him, and he just loves supporting his community, even if it is street vending. Yeah.
Buenas tardes, ¿me podría decir su nombre, por favor?
Mi nombre es Eleazar Cordero Lima.
¿Le podría preguntar qué le impulsó a dedicarse a la venta ambulante?
Por la necesidad de un trabajo, de tener un trabajo.
¿Cómo es un día típico para usted?
Ir a comprar mis cosas, preparar mis cosas, lavar las cosas, los utensilios.
¿Alguna vez ha tenido problemas con la policía o la ciudad?
No, nunca, todo bien.
¿Es la venta ambulante su principal fuente de ingresos?
Sí,
¿Se siente seguro trabajando en la calle?
sí, porque tengo apoyos también apoyo de mis clientes y de más gente.
¿Qué cambio haría para que su trabajo fuera más fácil y justo?
Que la ciudad nos diera un permiso, que nos otorgaran un permiso.
My name is Karen Martinez, and I'll be talking about the solutions and call to actions. What can the viewer do about the issue that you presented? One thing we can all do for the street vendors is talk more about the website and all the corporations that are actually doing something to teach the vendors how to do everything legally and about their rights. This could help the vendors speak up for themselves, or we could help nonprofits that give out resources or security for these vendors. You could help them get more attention if they have some sort of social media post and tag them. You could shop locally, and most important is voice your opinion and help them voice their opinion. Make them feel heard and important. We can talk to people like Jag Ariola and Eden Enamorado and a lot of other people that fight for justice. Jag Ariola and Eden Enamorado are activists who were wrongfully imprisoned alongside 6 others. They fought for justice for our people and our vendors, and to this day, Eden Enamorado is still locked up without bail. For a call to action, something we could do to get attention going would be to start to learn about all the challenges the street vendors deal with on a daily basis, not just when it is posted online. We could do this by talking to a street vendor and ask for their personal experience, or we could also get what happened on the internet. We could share our learning with the community through social media, workshops, or discussions. We can support our vendors by buying products from one every time we can. This could help them thrive and raise awareness about how they contribute to the community. Another thing would be to advocate for policy changes in order to help our vendors. We could do this by getting involved in local advocacy efforts that are fighting to improve regulations and protections for our vendors. We could also do this by writing letters to our representatives and by joining local organizations focused on street vendors' rights like California Street Vendors. Another thing would be to share your own stories in connection with street vendors or things you have witnessed happen to them. You can share your stories by social media, blogs, or community events to raise awareness. Some resources I have posted were Street Vendor Project, National Street Vendor United, and social media. With social media, you can follow relevant events and hashtags, and the hashtag being Street Vendors Justice, and organizations on platforms like Twitter and Instagram to stay updated on news.